In this video, I'm going to give you 10 tips that will skyrocket your creativity as a guitarist and just as a musician in general. Too many guitarists see creativity as this thing that will just come to them on a whim, and if they just practice their scales and learn songs, that naturally they'll just get more creative. Creativity is a skill, it's a muscle you can train, and you should train. And so with all the points I give you today, it's very important that you put them into practice. Some of these are more philosophical and some of them are more practical points. So you may find that some of these tips do immediately change how you play, and for the better, hopefully. But some of them will require implementation. You won't just be able to magically think these things into existence. Before we get into things, if you want to learn from me personally, I run online guitar mentorship. You send me questions, clips you're playing, and I get back to you within 24 hours with a personalized response on how to improve. If you like what's in this video and you really want to grasp the concepts more strongly, then the mentorship could be for you. Hit the link in the description to check it out. Anyway, onto the video. Number 1, the 80-20 rule. I cannot begin to tell you how 80-20 I've become as a human being. There's a lot of ways you can think about this. The way I like to think about it is, let's say it takes me 6 weeks to write a song that is 100% the best thing I could write. Or actually, let's be realistic, perhaps longer than that. But for me to write a song that's 80% my best, I could probably do that in a week or two. Now here's the catch. I could write 3, 4, 5, 6 or more songs at my 80% ability in the time it would take me to write one at my 100% ability. And you might be thinking, well, surely we just want the best songs we can get, and that's true. Or the best improv, this applies to a lot of creative things. But through each iteration, you will improve. So much so to the point that your 80% will far exceed what your 100% was even just 6 months ago. I want my 80% ability to be so damn good that it makes my old 100% look embarrassing. Number 2, lots of accomplished guitarists will tell you that you need to hear the note before you play it. I actually think this is nonsense. Let me explain why. There is something really freeing to being able to hear where you want to go before you go there, and then being able to enact that. But let me pose this to you. Imagine all you could hear in your head was just like a major scale in order, or if that was what you tended to hear most often. Your playing would be pretty boring. And so yes, we want to train our ears to be able to hear these more exciting movements, But I think, why not just use every tool at your disposal? If you have certain patterns that feel good under your fingers to play, use them and change them and adapt them. Play a fret that you wouldn't expect to normally play. That's going to give you more freedom. I would argue that the notes you hear in your head are most likely to bring you back into these patterns of thought that you have all the time, and most likely to leave you in the same box. And if you keep listening, we'll talk about how to get creative. But if you feel a bit left behind in that you can't hear these notes ahead of time, don't worry, because as long as you have a rigorous creative process, I don't believe you need to hear what's happening ahead of time. It's a cool trick and it's a cool thing to be able to do, and quite often I do find when I'm playing, I just hear a note and I think, I know where I want to go now. But so often, I hit a note by mistake, or I just play a pattern that feels good and I find the right part. You got to be careful here, you don't want to just play whatever comes to your mind, because again, your hands can deceive you and just end up leading you down the same path as well. So my point is, how you get to the note isn't important. It's just, is it the right note? If you get there by hearing it first, great. If you get there by playing it first, great, as long as it sounds good and it's right for you. Number 3, restriction and randomization. This is where we get into the practical tips about how to get creative. It's not some dark art that you can't improve. And I think these are the 2 most important principles for creating something. I'm going to start with randomization. So this goes to my earlier point about hearing notes ahead of time. I really believe you need to surprise yourself from time to time. And so random number generator on Google is one of my best friends for making things. I'll do a random number generator 1 to 12 to decide what fret I'm going to start playing on. Why not? I could list a number of techniques and give them a number and randomly generate which ones I'm going to use and in what order. If you just rely on your old habits and playing patterns, you're just going to play the same things over and over. Whereas randomization is going to force you into new ways of playing. You could randomize whatever you like. You could allocate different numbers for different time signatures, for different scale positions. Really anything. This is where you can get creative in your creative process. I don't like to rely on myself to try and come up with new ideas. Sometimes you've just got to stumble into them, and you can sort of force yourself into that stumble through randomization. You could roll a dice, you could do whatever you need to do. The second method that I love is restriction. A lot of modern players try and do everything all the time. And I think we just need to step away from that a little bit. Some of my favorite riffs, for example, some of my favorite solos, what makes them great is they've isolated a really great motif or technique or idea, and they've developed it. They've not tried to do tapping and then other types of legato and then palm mute and then different time signatures and different rhythmic feels. They've picked something and they've developed it and they've created a character. So what can we restrict ourselves to? Well, we could say we're only going to use this one technique in the song or in the solo. We could say I'm only going to play my first and third 3rd fingers. Because say, I'm not going to play any higher than the 6th fret. So you could really pick anything. The sky's the limit with this. But restricting yourself in some way is going to force you to think outside of the box. This is particularly hard to do the better you get at the guitar, because you have so much available at your fingertips and you want to use it, but sometimes you got to just hold back and find ways to get creative and interesting with a small subset of ideas. Number 4, play what sounds good, not what feels good. Now, the keen-eared of you, I don't know if that's a phrase, eagle-eared, it's definitely not a phrase, might be thinking that this goes against my point about hearing things ahead of time. But this is distinctly different. How you get to something that sounds good doesn't really matter. But what is important is that you don't just let your fingers dictate what you create. And by that I mean, it's very easy to play something that feels good physically on your fingertips, or that is very mentally stimulating. And that's where you end up with these really busy solos and riffs. But just remember, the person listening to you is not playing the instrument. They're not feeling that sensation of playing the thing. They're just listening. So you have to take yourself out of that headspace of, I love playing this, and think, do I love listening to this? And it's really hard to do. And I think honestly, the only way to do it is record what you do, go away for an hour and listen back. If you don't like what you listen to, you might have to check out some of the other points in this video, the more practical ones, on how to get creative. Just like the last point. Just because it feels good to play doesn't mean it sounds good. Number 5, think about the volume you're playing at. As a simple rule of thumb, louder sounds better. So we've got 2 extremes here that we need to kind of be careful to avoid. If you play too loudly, everything's going to sound good. If you crank your headphones, it's just going to sound pretty good, whatever you play. The feeling of playing a loud amp in a big room sounds great. It just feels great. But the opposite is also true, and you've got to be careful to avoid this. If you play really quietly, everything's going to sound a bit unexciting. It's not slapping you in the face, and you need that kind of physical feeling of the music going through you to really enjoy it. So just turn up every now and again if you don't. You might be writing great ideas that you're just not hearing loud enough. Simple point, but it's worth thinking about. Number 6, and this is very similar to my 80-20 rule, but it's a little bit more nuanced, I suppose. Get the reps in. If you've never written a solo or improvised or written a song before, I don't want you to even expect song number 20 to sound good, or solo number 20, or whatever it is you're creating. We want to be thinking in terms of hundreds here. Put it this way, if I asked you to write 100 songs or improvise 100 days in a row, I think you'd struggle not to get better. Now, what you need to be careful not to do is procrastinate. Watching hour-long tutorials on this, that, and the other, you'll notice this hopefully isn't too long a video. This requires action, creative action. You've got to be creating. And guess what? If you don't apply the 80-20 rule here, you're not going to be able to create very often. So this all kind of ties together. If you don't like what you're writing, there's a very good chance you just haven't written enough. Create more, don't dwell on things, see where it lands you. Number 7, and I really like this point, explore the extremes. A lot of people's creative bubble kind of exists in the confines of a very small space, and we want to broaden that as much as we can to find where we sit creatively. Let's take the example of picking dynamics. A lot of people's picking dynamics exists from sort of here to here, like hardest to softest. And I always say to my students, just do this. We need to broaden that. I want you to pick as gently as you can, like just touch the string. I want you to hear more plastic of the pick than note. Then go the other way, bash the string so that it goes really sharp and you hear it like twang. Find those extremes and then find where within those extremes you want to settle and what range you want to settle in. If you like legato playing, play as legato-y as you can. Don't pick anything, just see what it sounds like. And vice versa, just pick every note and maybe assess whether actually you've been doing too much legato playing and actually you do like a bit of picking in there. This is all about just interrogating your own creative process. You don't know what kind of treasure there might be in the extreme, so make sure to explore them. Number 8, write in the style of, or alternatively, write in your own style. By this I mean, take an artist that you love and try to tease out their ideas. So say you want to write a song. Start writing a song in the style of your favourite guitarist. Mark Tremonti's my favourite guitarist, so I have to kind of avoid this sometimes. But take a short section of a song or a solo, whatever it is you want to write, and see if you can, without actually learning the solo or the song, rewrite it using just what you can hear. Is he playing fast? Is he using a lot of palm muting? Is he using this technique or that technique? The key point here being you don't actually need to learn the specifics of the riff. You just need to be able to hear them and replicate them in some way. A lot of the old school guitarists talk about how a lot of their sound came from trying to figure out how to play other people's parts and actually not always getting it perfectly right. Nowadays we have tabs and all sorts, and so we do tend to get it kind of right. But there's some beauty in just learning to figure something out for yourself and then maybe trying to write it in your own style. Change something here or there. If they've done a hammer-on but you'd prefer to do a slide, do that. See how it sounds. Number 9, another philosophical one that I really like. Are you going with or against the grain? This tends to be with regards to parts that you're working on that are being played over something. So say you're writing a guitar layer, or you're soloing over a track, or you're writing a vocal part perhaps, maybe you're doing something beyond just the guitar. I want you to think about whether the part you're writing is going with the direction of the track or against it. If you've got a really flowy part underneath you, do you want to flow with it or do you want to fight it? This is something you have to judge for yourself in the moment, but it's a really good question to ask yourself. I love adding layers to my songs, and this is something I think about all the time. An example of something going with the grain, for example, might be a harmony, a direct harmony of a part. You might be soloing and you hear a little riff underneath your solo, and you could try and maybe harmonize or even double that riff. The part behind you might then suddenly become a bit more rhythmic, and you might decide, no, I want to maintain this flowy sound to go against the track a little bit and stand on top of it a little more. If you want to build with the track, you flow with it. If you want your part to stand up above it, go against it. And number 10, I would say finally, we've got a bonus one just to follow as well. Figure out the level of complexity at which you create and lean into that. I've always struggled with the idea that I like to write quite complex parts, but as per my earlier point, I don't always love to listen to them. And I used to struggle with this quite a lot because I just felt stumped all the time. I'm like, well, I like playing this really engaging stuff, but I just don't like how it sounds at the end. That's not actually a problem, and we can work with that. If you write a really complex part, or you come up with a really complex tappy lick or whatever, use that as your foundation and simplify from there. Go, okay, what are the key motifs in here? Chances are you've probably got about 3 or 4, maybe more, little ideas, whether it's techniques, rhythms, melodic ideas, within what you've created that you could tease out and build around. I often find that I write these really complex parts, and somewhere in there is like a really simple 3 or 4 note motif that when I hear it on its own feels justified and it sounds great because I know where it came from. If I were to play those 3 or 4 notes on their own, I'd kind of think, okay, cool, what now? But because I've heard them in the wider context of a more complex part, I feel I can attach something to them. Now, the opposite might be true for you. You might think, oh, everything I write's really simple. That's fine. Start simple and then add a layer of complexity. If you write a really simple melody, can you add some techniques on top to make that melody more interesting? Can you change the rhythm? Can you go against the grain a little bit? You can spend ages fighting against your writing style. What I would say is lean into it, harness that creative power, and then extract all of the positive stuff from it after the fact, after you've created. Don't let it get in the way of your creative process. Lean into it and then build. Okay, here's a little bonus point for you. Phrasing and repetition. This is kind of more to do with soloing and melodies and lead ideas, but it's kind of relevant to anything you create. When you get a good idea, run with it. I see so many people improvising across the fretboard, and the moment they come up with a good idea, they just move on to the next one. I had a student come to me once. He's very nervous and he improvised for me a little bit and he went, oh, that probably all sounded the same. I was like, no, none of it sounded the same. It all sounded different. You just kept playing loads of stuff. I was like, you just need to pick something and develop that idea. Some simple ways to do this would be play a little phrase and just change the last note, or just add 1 note onto the end, or change the first note. You can repeat this idea 3, 4 times, maybe more. And through simple developments, you can really build a story that the listener can follow. If you're learning guitar licks or you're learning riffs, don't just learn them, learn to change them and learn to play them in different places. The main thing that actually dictates what a lick sounds like is not the note choice. It's often more the direction of the movement. Are we going up or down in pitch and in what order? And actually the rhythm. So don't feel restricted by note choice. You can play most of the ideas you learn pretty much anywhere on the fretboard and with any combination of notes, as long as you move in the same trajectory and play it in kind of the same way as the original. So don't be afraid to take a short idea and repeat it. You're not going to bore people as long as there's some development there. So to summarize, what have we got? Number 1, the 80-20 rule. Make sure your 80% is so good that it trumps your 100% every time. Number 2, don't just insist on using your ears for everything. It doesn't matter how you get to the end result as long as you like how it sounds at the end. If that means finding new patterns that you didn't expect to use and not necessarily knowing what the next note is going to be, that's cool. Number 3, restriction and randomization. These are going to be your biggest movers when it comes to creating. Number 4, make sure what you're playing sounds good and that it doesn't just feel good to play in the moment. Number 5, assess your playing volume. If you're playing loud, everything's going to sound good, so be careful there. If you play quietly, it's all going to sound a bit dull, so maybe turn the volume up just to give you good ideas a fair shot. Number 6, write a lot. If you've written under 100 ideas and you're not happy, Let's get you into that 3-figure mark and then see how you feel. Number 7, explore the extremes. If you don't feel so creative, there's a very good chance that you live in quite a restricted box when it comes to how much you've explored techniques and ideas. Play as fast as you can, play as slow as you can. See how far you can take those extremes with all the different aspects of your playing, and you might unlock a whole new set of ideas. Number 8, learn to write in the style of someone or rewrite their ideas in your style. Without input, it's really hard to have output. We need to be taking in other people's ideas, learning from them and making them our own. Number 9, are you going with or against the grain? This is a great question to ask yourself when it comes to adding parts on top of other parts. Number 10, lean into your style. If you write complex stuff, do that, but then simplify after you've written, not during. Vice versa. If you write simple ideas, add complexity after you've written the simple thing. And then we've got your little bonus point, develop phrases. Don't just move on to another one. Take a short idea, let it breathe and change it and adapt it. Even one small note change can make all the difference. You're not going to bore people. Let that idea repeat itself. If you found this useful, please drop a comment below, like, subscribe, all that business. And remember to check out my mentorship. If you want to delve more into these creative ideas, you can talk to me personally about them. I'll be there with you every step of the way, and I promise your creativity will explode. I hope this video was useful, but now that you're getting creative, we need to make sure that the notes you hit are sounding good. If your vibrato's not on point, you should check out the recommended video here. Catch you all soon.